Probably the most wild card race of the season, has the most wild card winner of the season. Welcome everybody to another one of these wonderful post-race streams. So I get to share the immediate reaction with all of you. I got my 45 Bulls jersey. I don't know how well you can see it, but old MJ jersey for it being in Chicago. Be sure to vote on the poll, like the stream, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really quick, get into these super chats. One from Oh Baby for $9.99. I think NASCAR screwed up by shortening the race. It wrecked the strategy of the cars like Bell and led to lots of crashes by forcing drivers to push their cars too far. M. Martin fan for life for 5 says, I was certain this street race in Chicago was going to be a disaster. I was wrong. That was great. And one Assadad says, for 2, if Chase misses the playoffs, should SVG replace him? No. We'll get to those topics and what people think of the race in a moment. I would definitely say that it's definitely something I've never seen before. We will get in because I think that we should separate the last 10 laps, the finish, from the overall event itself. There was a lot of positives. There was also a lot of negatives. I think to ignore both sides would be both immature, but also just all around dumb to do. I think that we need to look at all sides of this event. But man, I mean, leading off this, just because of the circumstances, winning in your first start, man, that has to be one of the biggest upset wins ever. I don't think that it's wrong by saying that. When you look at what NBC put out, I took a picture of the graphic so I could remember it and talk about it here. Jim Roper won at Charlotte in 49, Jack White at Hamburg in 49. That was the first year of NASCAR ever in the history books. Harold Kite winning at Daytona Beach 1950, Leon Sales at North Wilkesboro 1950, and Marvin Burke at Oakland in 1951. All those in the first 3 years. Johnny Rutherford at Daytona in 1963 was the last driver to win in his first Cup start ever. It has been, if I'm doing my math correctly, it has been, 60 years since this has happened? Say what you want about the race. Say what you want about what happened. There's plenty that we can talk about with that, but this is historic to witness. Whether you agree with how stuff with the race went, we can talk about that all day and night long. We will. Trust me, we will talk about all of this. But I don't want to take away what that driver of the 91 did, SVG, because I'm not going to say his name over and over again because I'll start sounding like Dale Jr. trying to say it. But that was impressive. And I don't think that should be taken away because of the race, because of the circumstances, because of anything. He raced some of the best out there. Chase Elliott was right behind him. Justin Haley is no slouch in my opinion. And it was a good win, and he did it cleanly. But let's go over the finishing order so we can pop them up on top after we read through them. Van Gisbergen wins the race in the Project 91 car with Darian Grubb as crew chief. Shouldn't be shocking. He did well. By the way, click that like button. For 500 watching, I thank you already. We'll read all those super chats in a bit, but only 91 likes, which is fitting for the winner. But be sure to click that like button. Justin Haley comes home in a heartbreaking second. It looked like he had it in the bag until that 91 charged up. Chase Elliott with a third place run. Another solid run for him in his bid to try and qualify maybe off of points. This win here does not count towards the playoffs. That is going to be really big come crunch time for these drivers, as that's a win off the table, both good and bad for different drivers on the cut line. Kyle Larson comes up to a 4th place run. Kyle Busch recovers to a 5th place run after running into the wall earlier in the race. Then you got Austin Cindric 6th, Michael McDowell 7th, Joey Logano 8th, Ty Gibbs an impressive run. Yes, there was a lot of shuffling, but he ran in the top 10 all day and night long, finishing 9th. Another solid run for the young rookie, keeping him right in that playoff battle. Then Chris Buescher in 10th, Denny Hamlin, our pole sitter, in 11th, after some early troubles that we will talk about as well. From there, Eric Almirola with a solid 12th place run, William Byron 13th, Corey LaJoie 14th, Ryan Preece 15th, then Eric Jones 16th, AJ Allmendinger 17th, Christopher Bell in 18th. 19th goes to Gilliland, then Briscoe rounds out the top 20 with Jensen Button 21st. Button ran in the top 10 early in the race and honestly impressed me. Yes, I know that was probably a Stewart-Haas Racing prepared car, but still, he doesn't have much experience, just like the winner of this race, and he ran up front for a lot of it. Things didn't go his way. Chastain with a 22nd place run. And then Josh Bilicki, shout out to Live Fast for honestly a pretty fast 78. That 78 car had top 20 speed before all the chaos went on and on and on. He comes home 23rd. Still a good finish for that team. That team, I think, really needs a good finish after some of the struggles, even for their standards that they've had. So good run on them there. Brad Keselowski, 24th, 25th. Noah Gragson, Andy Lally in the 51 for RWR, getting 26th. Not bad either. Daniel Suarez, 27th. Tyler Reddick had troubles, and most of these guys all had troubles the rest of the way. But Reddick, 28th. Then you had Kevin Harvick, 29th. Harrison Burton, 30th. And last on the lead lap, Bubba Wallace, 31st. We'll talk about him and causing the last caution, all that. Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finish a lap down. Then I believe Ty Dillon was out of this race in 35th. Then Austin, 36th out of this race. And last, in 37th, was Alex Bowman. Now, we're going to flash on the top of the screen the finishing order of this race. If I spelled it wrong, pronunciation wrong with how I said it, any of that, let me know. I know people are more than happy to let me know, and honestly, I probably need that. So post-race results up top from the Grant Park 220, and also we have the poll on the community tab. Looking back at the race, but first, before we look back at the race, I should say, a race that was 78 laps, 9 cautions, with 7 lead changes among 5 leaders, that went 2 hours, 50 minutes, and I believe 49 seconds. Might have been 41. I have a doctor's handwriting. But before we do that, I want to get to a couple of these super chats. You guys are really, really awesome sending these in, and I want to get a few of them before we get into each bit of the race itself. Mark Moore, thank you for the 10. I do not think you will ever get a crazier street race than the first IndyCar 1 at Nashville due to Ericsson being airborne and then winning. Yeah, I'd agree there. Tyler McGonigal, thank you for the 5. Why was this such a great race? Why am I excited for next year's race? How did this race even happen? All things considered, freaking awesome race. People says, is SVG eligible for the playoffs? There's a lot going on here. I apologize. Who will he replace? He is not eligible for the playoffs. He did not try to attempt each race, though from what he made it sound like, maybe 2025, maybe he might come over to the U.S. and give it a shot. I'd be willing. If Trackhouse opened up another team, or as long as it's a team that's viable and good and could give him good equipment, I'm down for that. Jets Mets, I should say. Your super chat actually reset on me. Let me pull that up. It's been years since I've had goosebumps watching a race. Unbelievable. Going into this race, I really thought this was gonna be a mess of a race. Kevin Stallman for 5. I thought this race was going to tank at first. The odds were all against NASCAR during this event, and still they delivered a solid race. Zach Moore for 2. Great race in spite of the weather. Great win for SV. That is your first super chat on the channel, and I think that's a good place to start getting into this race, going through. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and we'll talk about it all week long, all about this race. Lick that like button, subscribe if you're new. Thank you to the almost 1,000 people watching right now. Let's get into stage 1 before we start kind of breaking down everything. Let's break down stuff so we can break more stuff down. Denny Hamlin was on the pole. There was tons of rain. It postponed the event early on. There was so much standing water that people had tires floating down pit road and were having little boat races with Tupperware. There's no way, and listen, I'm someone who's very critical of this race. I'm going to be critical in this stream of elements of this race. You cannot blame NASCAR for the weather. It's for some reason, Mother Nature hates us. It hates us NASCAR fans. It hates NASCAR events. We could go to the Sahara and we'd get a monsoon and it would turn into a jungle. It's just how it seems to go. I'm not blaming NASCAR for that. Now, I think it will add to the debate that we have on this race as my voice cracks. Full Peter Brady on that one. I think it'll add to the debate that this race will inevitably have, both with politicians, fans, NASCAR alike, on bringing it back. It's unfair to NASCAR. I understand that. I think NASCAR did a great job promoting this race, and everything outside of NASCAR's control went to hell in a handbasket. We will talk about all of that. It's not fair to NASCAR, but it has to be added into this. Alex with 100. Thank you. Holy Jesus. SVG making history, and he made history. I believe that's the first $100 super chat in a long time on this channel. I appreciate it a ton. I'm sorry that I had to skip the line with you that have given it so far, but that is awesome. I tip my hat to you. Maybe I'll take my family out for dinner since I'm up with them or something, you know. maybe something like that. But let's get into this race. So again, you can't blame NASCAR for this kind of stuff. Again, tip my hat to you. But you can't blame them for that. They start the race with a single file start, which is very unique. I don't think, outside of maybe Richmond 2007 when they raced for about 8 laps when it was raining and then called it, I don't remember a race starting single file like that. So that was in and of itself, this race is weird, it's wacky, it's unique, it's all those things. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that it is all those things. But we have a single file start. Reddick ends up getting the lead from his team owner on the get-go, and Reddick had, I think, the strongest car along with Christopher Bell today. Him and Bell, if you're asking who I think deserved to be up there, it was the 45, the 20, and the 91. I think they had the 3 strongest cars all day, but things went wrong. We'll talk about that too. But on lap 1, we already have turn 6 calamity, Bagley taking years off of our lives, with Gregson, Jones, and Brad Keselowski getting into the tire barrier. Trust me, Gregson's a name you're going to hear a lot when we talk about this race. At lap 2, Hamlin's off the track in the tires as well. Lap 3, Kyle Busch just completely ass blasts the wall. And we get our first of 9 cautions on the day. The rest of the day, we had single file restarts, which I think NASCAR, good call. Again, what NASCAR could control, I think they did well. And that's all they can do. I'm not going to blame them for that. I've been critical of NASCAR before. I'm not going to be as critical of NASCAR in this particular instance as much as I am and again, there's some stuff they did screw up on. I get that, but there's a lot of factors that went against them. But you have the restart on lap 9. Christopher Bell passes a slipping Tyler Reddick, makes a mistake, gets the lead early on. Gregson gets stuck in the turn 6 barrier again 4 laps later, and we're still not done talking about Noah Gragson on this race. Lap 16, you go single file again for the restart. We end the stage with Christopher Bell winning it over Tyler Reddick, SVG in 3rd, then 4th MTJ, Michael McDowell in 5th, Daniel Suarez 6th, 7th goes to Kyle Larson, AJ Allmendinger 8th, then you got Ty Gibbs in 9th, and Jenson Button finishing top 10 in stage 1. I told you he did really well today. Was a great underdog pick for a lot of people. And I think he'll be overshadowed, and rightfully so, I think, based on what happened. Because on lap 23, off of Chris Buescher's nose, Button gets around. I think it's just a racing deal, personally. And then lap 30, another caution comes out because Noah Gragson is in the wall again. And you would think, it's Chicago. You got the Cubs. You got the White Sox. It's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Nope. We're going to talk about Noah Gragson even more. But as we go, lap 34 is a restart, and we have a Bowman spin bringing out the caution on lap 41. He stopped, brought up a good amount of issues for Alex Bowman on the day. We have a lap 43 restart. It's really a battle between Bell and Larson, with Christopher Bell having the better car, and I think, honestly, he drove a better race when at least he was going back and forth with them. And Bell wins stage 2 with Larson in 2nd. Then you got Reddick 3rd, SVG in 4th. He was up front all day. I don't want to hear this is a fluke win. He was up front all day, one of the best cars. Michael McDowell again in 5th. Ty Gibbs in 6th. 7th, Suarez. 8th, MTJ. AJ Allmendinger in 9th. And Chase Briscoe getting a stage point in 10th. Now, I want to read a couple of these super chats before we go to the final stage, and then we talk about all of this stuff around it, because there was controversy. There was, rain causing problems. There was a shortened race, and there was probably the biggest upset that I might have seen in a long, long time. But really quick, Marky Mark, thank you for the 5. That race exceeded my expectations. Congrats to SVG. Also, fantastic coverage from NBC. I will say I agree with you there. I think NBC did a great job. I want them to emulate this at every race. I think that their promotion that them and NASCAR did for this was great. Their coverage was great. The camera angles were really good. I want this every week. They prove they can up the style that they already do. I think that that's not something that is too out there to ask for. CPT Tanker Joe for 10, Ryan Newman fan, and always will be. I was in Chicago this weekend with family to go train watching. Completely forgot about the race until my grandpa asked me what time they were racing. Sly Supersonic for 710. 1. SVG doesn't surprise me because he's one of the greatest V8 supercar drivers of all time. True. And 2. Kyle Busch wrecked his car early and still got 5th. Kyle Busch style race, man. Ross Crash Stain, thank you for the 2. Wait, there's multiple from you, I think. Man, there's a lot of 2 on there. Can someone remind me why I'm a Bowman fan again? Because you like your driver and you're loyal to him. Blake, thank you for the 2. MRN said Chase must win. Can't get it on points. I would question that because I do think he can get it on points, but it will take drivers not winning underneath the cut line for that to happen. Alex, for 2, that 91 flew faster than the Blues Brothers. Nice Chicago reference. I like that. How can you not like the Scott McNew, thank you for the 5. Congrats to SVG. Perhaps the biggest upset in Cup Series history. It's up there. It is up there. Napa Racing Fan 927 for the 5. Who would you like to see run the Project 91 car next? What's the future of this race and other street races? How can Chicagoland and Road America return? Okay, big questions here. Who would I like to see in it? The Project 91 car? I'm going to say this every time. Lewis Hamilton. I would love to see Lewis Hamilton give it a shot, and I think that would give NASCAR a lot of worldwide recognition because if he ran well, he is one of the best drivers to ever live. If he gets his ass kicked, hey, these NASCAR guys are pretty good, and it's not easy to jump into one of these things. And I think it shows even more that what SVG did today was amazing. I think it was. Still, I know there's similarities between V8 supercars and the current Cup cars, but to go to a different practice, to a track that no one's ever really been on, in a car that you really haven't driven in any way before except a little bit of testing, that's impressive as hell. What's the future of this race and other street races? It's going to be interesting. I'll get to that after we get through the summary, but I think it is going to still be up in question, and I don't think it's NASCAR. I don't even think it's the finish. I think it has everything to do with Chicago politics. We're not going to be getting political opinions by any means, but that is something that is going to have to be watched. A lot of stuff that changes, a lot of fluidity with it, and I think that it might be a one and done. It might be something that's here for 5 years. It is really that much of a spectrum on this. Other street races, I think there's going to be other ones. I think that NASCAR got a lot of what they wanted, even though I don't think it necessarily was a complete success. I do think they got a lot of what they wanted out of this. Now, how can Chicagoland and Road America return? Well, there is an open ISC date due to Auto Club being out. Now, maybe they'll give that to Montreal. That's the rumor I've heard. But if this race doesn't come back, I think that Chicagoland would be a very eligible one. Road America, too. Road America, I think, on the right date deserves a Cup race because it's very hard to get over 100,000 fans to show up for a NASCAR race anymore, and they did that 2 years in a row, and they deserve that. That's something that I think only the Daytona 500 and maybe the Bristol Night Race can say. They deserve it. They deserve a race. Good questions. And wow, Craig, thank you for another 100 from your friends at the Daily Downforce. They are grinding right now. Plug them, please. Keep up the great work. Yes, the Daily Downforce. Actually, funny enough, got my Daily Downforce shirt on. Thank you, Craig, by the way. Got my Daily Downforce shirt. You actually, in the description below, you can actually get my new merch on the Daily Downforce website, along with some awesome stories, other creators like Eric Estep, the Garage Guys, the Scene Vault podcast. So definitely check them out after this stream is done. You guys, I think, will love it. There's plenty of good stuff. And what I love is there's fact-based stuff, there's statistics, there's opinion, there's everything you guys would want from a news source. Follow them on Twitter and Instagram. They're awesome, and they've helped us out a ton. Just look at the podcast Party Bus. They are awesome. So thank you, Craig. I appreciate it a ton. Looking at some of the others really quick, because I do want to see some of what you guys say as well. And thank you guys for plugging it in the chat. I appreciate that, Spencer. And I don't know if anyone else did. I can't see, but thank you guys. Twin spinner for the 2. That was the most badass thing I've ever seen. That finish, I love clean finishes in racing, and I love clean passes. That move on Haley, and Haley made a great move to try and get by him, but when Haley made that move, you knew he was overshooting that next corner, and because of that, he just loaded up, let him overshoot it a little bit, and made the corner himself. And from there, the race was over. That didn't matter if there was cautions, didn't matter any of that. The race was over at that point. I think the better car, better driver, all that. I think the deserving people got the win in this. Henry Callahan, thank you for the 5. I'm here for SVG winning in his first start. NASCAR needs an overseas exhibition cup race at Surfers Paradise. Andrew Meyer, thank you for the 5. This race was somehow both an absolute disaster and a rousing success. Insane how Chicago had a drought-ending storm, which is true. My parents and grandparents, family all live around here. There's been a drought for a good 2 months now, and then this happened. And they still pulled off the race. Drew, Isaac, thank you for the 2. According to my calculations, Gibbs is in the playoffs. Impressive rookie. People might hate him, but he's a damn good driver. Kevin, thank you for the 2. I think this race will definitely improve ratings. We'll see. The delays will be an issue. Also, cutting the race as well will be. Ross Crash saying, thank you for the 2. Petition to rename Turn 6 Bragson's Corner. All right, let's get to the final stage of this race, and then we're gonna get into all the talking points, all of that stuff. I'll be running some polls in here too, so I want to hear what you guys think. Even if you disagree with me, it's fun to hear what everybody thinks. Starting out the final stage, we had the announcement. NASCAR made a decision that they're going to lap 75 instead of lap 100. Personally, at the moment, and I think we'll talk about this too. 1-2 happy. I know that they had to do it, but it is a mark against them, I think, in the long term. When you look at how this race was. Again, out of NASCAR's control. I'm not blaming NASCAR for this. It still isn't a good thing, though. I think that those don't have to be mutually exclusive. That it's not a good thing, and we're also not blaming NASCAR for it. But on lap 49, they have the restart. Justin Haley is now up front over Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. Somebody behind him and Austin Dillon, who always manages to get a weird-ass win, and 2 damn good Hendrick drivers. So Justin Haley stayed ahead of all of them, outdrove, in my opinion, all 3 of them, and I think that's impressive because you got the best driver so far this year, in my opinion, in William Byron. You have one of the best road course racers in NASCAR history in Chase Elliott, and Austin Dillon, who is better than people think, and, like I said, gets weird-ass wins. But everyone pretty much, they go in, I can't remember what turn it was, but one car goes around and pretty much everyone just eats shit in the corner. They all pile in. We knew it was going to happen. And I'll be real, the first, 50, maybe 55 laps of this race, I'd even say 60, it felt like I was watching a bad iRacing race personally. But they cleaned up their act. I give them credit. And we'll get to that. On lap 53, we have the restart. MTJ spins out. Bubba goes off course, though he's able to get back on. No caution. The 31, the 3, and the 9 pull away. And when they pull away in this run, the 91 chases them all down, which I think it was impressive. He was, I think, 2 seconds faster at the finish of that race than anybody on the track. It's just crazy. It is crazy. Whether you love or hate this race, the way it finished, and I'm going to keep going back to that, is something crazy that you will probably never see again. And if you do, it's going to be a weird one-off, something that is unprecedented, unpredictable, all of that. So, man, it's crazy, man. The poll is going crazy. I'll read that super chat again a little later. We'll look at the poll. But we'll keep looking here. With 18 to go, you have Reddick stuck in the tire barrier, brings out a caution, meaning that with 15 to go, we have our restart. Only a lap later, Dylan goes head first into the wall, breaks a toe link, race is over. He would go into the turn 1 tire barrier, but luckily, and I think good on him, got himself out of the way, put himself on pit road, did not affect the finish of this race because his was over. I like that. I know it's a bare minimum thing to say, but I know there's a lot of drivers who would have just parked it and affected the way that this race finished out. So good on him for not being immature, which he very well could have been. He probably had a reason to be. With 11 to go, though, the 21, the 19, and the 4 they spin. I believe that Truex got into Harvick. That's what set it off. They stayed green, and that's when the 91 is just charging up there. I mean, it is clear in every corner how much faster he is than those front 2 guys of Haley and Elliott. Again, I know there's a difference of tires, different to cars, but still, when you're outrunning Chase Elliott at a road course, I don't care where it is, I don't care what kind of car he has, it's impressive. And cannot be taken away. I cannot understate how impressive I think this win was. And how excited I am to see someone new like this win. I really hope he comes back because it's fun. It was fun rooting for him, man. It was really fun rooting for him to come up through the pack like that. And it seemed like the crowd went wild with it. With 8 to go, though, you have Truex in the tires again, right as the 91 was making a move on the 31. Rightfully so, though. The 31 was placed ahead of him. Haley was the leader. Even though it was probably very frustrating for all of us at home who might have been rooting for him. And for Haley fans, you're probably biting your fingernails off. But that spurs a 5 to go restart where Haley has a really good restart. I got to say, he was at a huge disadvantage, and holding those guys off as long as he did, don't take away what Justin and Haley did today. Just saying to a friend of mine, probably watching at home, hey, I'm saying nice things about Haley. You know who you are, and we know the joke, and it's all fun and game and good. But the 91 takes the lead. The 31, like I said, gets back, but he overshoots the corner. SVG takes that nice kind of mellow. I guess that's the best way I could put it. Aggressive versus a mellow line into the corner. Gets him the lead. Smart racing. Haley did what he had to do without junking the cars. I love that too. Nice, clean racing for the win. Racing hard, though. I absolutely love when there is good, hard, clean racing up front, and we're not just junking race cars for no reason because you're out of the race. So awesome, awesome racing up front. But Bubba gets into the 47. We bring out caution number 9, the final caution that brings out the first overtime. Maybe light wasn't that bad of an issue, but didn't matter. 91 runs out with the lead, gets the white, gets the win, and now we're here talking about it today. 30 minutes to go through the post-race. You could tell there was a ton going on. Like I said, I liked a lot of it. Disliked a lot of it. I think that doesn't mean that I hate. Here's how I put it. Here's how I'll put it. Just putting it out there. The last 10 laps of this race were great. The finish of this race was great. And I think the finish of this race, in my opinion, saved this race from being an absolute dumpster fire. Mostly out of NASCAR's control, somewhat in the driver's control. The first bit of the race, in my opinion, was a below average race. This race got it to be about a 5 or 6 out of 10. It's very much, I think, like the first Roval race. If you want to have a comparison, it's very dark. I mean, I shouldn't say I live. I'm here 90 miles away. We basically have the same sunset. It was dark when this race ended. I was surprised they had that final overtime, but it was dark. The cameras, something people I think should know, because this camera does the same thing. It's actually a little darker in here than you guys see, but the camera has you can have the white balance and other lighting changes with it that you can edit. It's darker in here than it looks, but the camera helps it out, and that's the same thing that happened there. So for anyone saying that, oh, it's still light out, no, it wasn't, and I'm not blaming NASCAR. Let's look at some of these super chats and see what you guys think. But I'm going to remove this pinned comment, and I'm going to ask you guys, just starting with the finish, and then we'll go from there. Is this the biggest NASCAR upset you've ever seen? I think that's a good question to have for a lot of people. And I think that it's something that's going to be really interesting to see, because I think there's some that had lesser equipment that have won that have been huge upsets, or have come out of nowhere and been huge upsets. But I don't think many of us, I should say, have seen live somebody come in their first start and win a cup race like this. So let's start with that one. I think a pretty neutral question, honestly. Let's not throw daggers at each other starting out. Just a yes, no. Is this the biggest NASCAR upset you have ever seen? I can see both sides of it. So, no, I don't want another option. Go. See, I know what I'm doing. And while we're at it, let's read some of these super chats. Bake the Snake for 5. Didn't Watkins Glen last year start single file? Might have. I don't remember every race that I've ever watched. I've watched hundreds of races, probably over thousands of races in my life. So if I forgot, I apologize. 670 package when for the 2. Gregson in turn 6 had a very sticky romance today. Marky Mark, hold on. The super chats redid themselves, but I will get to yours, I promise. Here it is, Marky Mark. Can we have NBC all year? No, because then we'd probably have a lot of Peacock races, and I personally don't want that. I'm not a fan of Peacock. Need for Speed 5353 for 2. I love Noah, but my God, he was a clown today. Yeah. That bacon car was a burnt bacon car, to say the least. Twin spinner for 2, Noah Gregson. Firewalls, shaking hands. Jim H for 5. Race exceeded my expectations. Great to see SVG win. Trackhouse will have no trouble getting drivers to take a shot in the 91 car in the future. That is true. If anything else that this has changed, this has opened the door for drivers in all forms of motorsports to say, hey, I can come over and there's a ride that I can win in NASCAR. I can show out. That's big, and that's going to make a huge difference for Trackhouse. It's going to put Trackhouse on the worldwide motorsports radar, which is one of their biggest goals. So that shouldn't be understated as well. That's going to be something that's kind of put under the rug about, when we talk about Chicago street races in general and what this means for NASCAR. But for Trackhouse, this is a huge, monumental win that I don't think any of us saw coming, or at least many did. Red Dog 81 for 2. Truex probably doing all he can to ban Chicago. People for 2. Why has Elliott fallen off on road courses? 0 wins in 2 years. Well, is that next-gen car compared to the Gen 6? Stuff changes when it comes to different generations of cars. Look at Jeff Gordon, for the most part, after 2007, when they went full-time with the COT, never won a road course race again. Jeff Gordon, for the longest time, has been considered the best road course racer ever. So I think it's differences of how to drive a car. He's still very good. I don't want to underestimate Elliott. And a lot of these drivers have gotten better at road courses too, whereas in the past, he was probably head and shoulders better than 90% of the field. Again, I still don't want to take away from Elliott. I still think at the moment his numbers show he is one of, if not the best road course driver in NASCAR history. He has more races to go off of, I know. But he has been very impressive, and I don't think we should be too worried until this becomes something long-term. I mean, Dale Jr. is one of the best super speedway racers ever, and he went from 2004, if you don't include the Clash and duels, all the way to 2014 without winning a super speedway race, and we don't really ask too many questions about that, too. I get it's a little different, but still. That's at least my thoughts on it. People for 2 left that one, and then Daniel for 2 left this one, saying exceeded my expectations. Happy for SVG, Elliott in 3rd. Israel, thank you for the $3 super chat. Nothing commented, but your first super chat, I appreciate it a ton. as well as the 5 gifted memberships I saw earlier. I appreciate that too. Oh, baby, for $4.99. Does this race end any chance of Chicagoland getting back on the schedule? No, it does not, and I will explain that in a little bit. I swear, we're getting to stuff. There's just a lot to talk about and break down about this race, and I want to hear what all of you have to say. But this does not end Road America or Milwaukee or Chicagoland's chances of being back on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. But it does make stuff interesting for scheduling long term. Andrew, for the 2 Cup to Portland, Indy, Road Course, Roval, and No Fontana in 2024. Fred Dog 81, we'll read a couple more, and then let's get into a lot of the long-term stuff here. Fred Dog 81 for 5. They don't post purses much, but they did for Chicago, just over $7.5 million. You think that's big enough of a purse for a big event with all of the costs to teams? I think it's a big number to push out there. I've seen bigger ones, much bigger ones before in NASCAR's heyday, but this is not that. So I'm not too surprised personally, at least from what I've seen the numbers be before. Groovy Goose for 5. Does SVG's win show that NASCAR achieved its goal with this gen car and making it similar to the sports GT? And the Iceberg fly is back in the garage. It starts raining and all the flies come out. Does this open the door for more drivers? Yeah, it does, and I think it does to a bit show that goal. Austin H 450, thank you for the $4.99. No comment, but I appreciate the donation a ton. H 670 horsepower package win for 10. The poll going crazy. Yeah, I'm not gonna look too much at that right now, but I think if I can, I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast. They ended pretty quick because of getting up against the window. But I believe, I got to say that they've had the playoff standings out. They might not. But let's talk about the race overall and street racing in the Chicago market. So I'll say it like this. Like I said, I think that first 50 or so laps I thought was pretty below average personally. I thought it was a wreck fest. I thought it was kind of bad. Thank you, Need for Speed, for the gifted 5 memberships. I thought that overall there left a lot to be desired from it. There was a lot of problems that NASCAR couldn't, fix, just Mother Nature. There's a lot of stuff the city did wrong. The day before, pushing people out, not being clear about the lightning policy of 90 minutes instead of 30. Not having good, and by the way, we'll end this poll 69, nice, or 68 now, % of you said that this is the biggest, upset you've ever seen in NASCAR. But I think that was bad, the way that the city handled it, and not flooding, I think the flooding of the track and the way that happened was something that should be addressed long term if they're going to have this race more. You have, of course, the unfortunate passing of one of the contractors. You have the person breaking in. There are going to be a lot of people and power in Chicago and politicians who will use this as ammunition and use cutting the event and not getting the concerts in, which, again, not all NASCAR's fault, but that is still something that, whether fair or unfair, is going to be used against them. I still think it's going to be very difficult for this to be a long-term event. I still think it's going to be really hard with especially new leadership in Chicago. They can say all they want in public when nothing can change, but when things now can change, there is going to be a lot to look at when it comes to this. A lot of people in the area that weren't happy with it, a lot of routes that were messed with that weren't foreseen to be messed with. So long-term, when I say long-term, I mean for the 3-year deal and possibly the 2-year extension, I think it's gonna be difficult for this deal to be fulfilled still because, again, Chicago politics are very ugly. And again, whether it's fair or unfair to NASCAR, they're going to use the bad that happened in this race and in this weekend against them. Again, not all their fault. Now, could they have, I think they got better with handling cautions compared to yesterday with the Xfinity race, which I think the way that they just ended it like that, I get it's probably a necessity, but it still is a very bad look. That was not good, and that's on NASCAR. I think that making it so close with the scheduling of once the race is done on Sunday, tearing stuff down into the week and all that, I think that's on NASCAR. I think they could have probably negotiated better. It seemed like they got pretty much everything else they wanted. So there is a lot that they could work on. But the whole car breaking in, that's on security. It's on NASCAR security. But it seemed like that's more on the city security that was around there. But it's going to be used against them, whether unfair or not. I personally, again, I am very biased on this. I'm going to lay that out now. I'm someone who went to Chicagoland from 2007 to its last race. I still think Chicagoland has a path back. The track is in good condition. I know it's in good condition. That's all I'll say when it comes to how I know it's in good condition. But there's a lot of Chicagoland trucks around at different races. If you look at ISC races in the Midwest, you see Chicagoland haulers, stuff like that. I think this track does have a long term because I don't think that NASCAR is going to want to leave the Chicago market, whether that's next year if this race gets canceled or in 2027 when this race ends. It's when NASCAR ends their deal. But then when it comes to street racing, I think that the good from this, NASCAR will be able to use with different cities to do different street races. They talked about Denver. I think that's a good one. It's somewhere that not many NASCAR fans are, but there's a large amount of people there. There's a good history with Furniture Row. They can use that. I think Pittsburgh is a very good fit, especially with more of a working class city that would probably cater more to the average NASCAR fan. I don't think that they should have huge prices for tickets or anything like that. So there's things that need to be addressed city by city. Things that will work in Chicago that won't work in Pittsburgh, in Mexico City, in Montreal, in Denver. But it's there is a lot of opening, I think, long term. I think Road America probably will have a shot again, just because of the crowd alone it brought. It, especially if there is that whole attendance meaning more in the new deal because tracks don't get as much of the TV money. I think that's going to be something that could be in Road America's corner, and doesn't even mean Road America replaces Chicago. They can both live on the schedule because Road America has its own fan base. It's a lot like Sebring in that. So I think there's a lot of different options and opportunities. NASCAR said that they're willing to try a ton of different stuff, and the new schedule is going to be out of this world different. They've said it before, but I do think that it is leading to that. There's talk of Nashville having multiple races in the market between the super speedway and the fairgrounds. Why can't the street race have that? Especially if it's a transition year after the contract ends and Chicagoland be with it. Especially if they grow it like they say they will, which there were a lot of people that were there that had never been in a NASCAR race. I think, like I said, there's a ton of possibility that's been made from this race. But again, you can't ignore the problems that have been brought up with this. I'm not going to sit here and be a complete negative Nelly or a complete shill. I want to be somewhere in the middle. And I think that's the best that we can have with it. I do think if they grow the Chicago market like they think they can with the reduced capacity that Chicagoland had compared to what it had before, that maybe you can make that work. There's tons of markets, though, that I think have been opened up thanks to this and a worldwide recognition thanks to the winner alone. Now, let's look at some of these other super chats here. Austin 450, another 2, says, I was hoping to see the Kiwis smash Kiwis. Well, that would fit with the Trackhouse way. Cameron Andrews for the Canadians, $6.99. I don't know about you, but after this race, I'm going to watch the next Supercars race and cheer on SVG. I think he won a lot of American, Canadian, a lot of North American fans in this. Again, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships from Michael Kelly Gilliam. Bryce, thank you for the 10 as it resets. I appreciate you guys going above and beyond donating. It means a ton to me, and it helps a ton for the channel. Bryce, thank you for the 10. Man, it was a huge W. When you're getting Barstool and Pat McAfee chiming in, you're doing something, right? That is for the mainstream, definitely a big thing. 45M mini stock from New Zealand with the New Zealand $20. The fact that nobody has NASCAR TV rights in New Zealand is super disappointing. Amazing for our country, though, that our first ever Cup driver won it in the first try. Bring him and Scott McLaughlin in full time for some good action. Well, There's a lot of talk about possibly going maybe 40 charge, maybe having 43 car fields again. There's openings that could happen. I'm not necessarily pushing for an open wheel invasion or an out of the U.S. kind of invasion again, the way that we had in the 2000s. But a few people coming over, I think, would be very interesting, as this car has been shown and this racing has been shown to open up the doors for many. So I'm open to just about anything at this point. To a certain level of absurdity. Napa Racing Fan 927 for 2. Should they have canceled the Xfinity race? Personally, I don't think so, but they were pushed against the wall that they probably didn't have a choice. We have no idea what talk goes on behind the scenes between the city and the sanctioning body. Steve-O for the 10. Thank you for giving us your first super chat to the channel. Even though there's no comment, I still appreciate it a ton. Daniel, thank you for the 2. Derek Cope winning the 590 is the biggest upset. Sean Pinkerton, thank you for the 5. Hello, Supercars, Kiwis, and New Zealand. No way a lucky win. SVG can drive. Last time a debut win happened, gas was 32 cents, JFK was president, and there was no such thing as the Super Bowl. I'm going to leave a poll for you guys for what you think of the long term when it comes to the Chicago street race. How long does this race last? And I think that there are some good conversations on every end for it. So I'll put one and done, 3-year deal, 5 years, which is the max. And then let's have a meme answer, potato soup. How about that? So those are your options. I didn't spell potato wrong, did it? Nope, yep. I still know how to spell potato. So how long does this race last? Is it a one and done this year? Did we just have one crazy race that we'll always remember for good and bad reasons? Are we going to have the full 3-year deal or the 5-year deal that could be an option? Or do you just like potato soup? So while we're reading super chats, we'll let you all vote on that. I'm interested to see what you guys think because a lot of good came from this, but there still is a lot to look at. Oh, baby, for $4.99. I think Cope winning the 500 after Dale got a flat tire was a bigger upset. That was Dale's. He had that win for 199 laps. What mistake did I didn't think I made a problem. But anyway. Need for Speed 5353. Thank you again for the 5 gifted memberships. And Groovy Goose, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Thanks for the fun streams. I appreciate it. And you know what? The second half of the year, we're going to be much more focused on it. I've been at the track and on the move around the country the last 2 months. We're going to be pretty much post-race for almost every race the rest of the season, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I tried to do Xfinity. I was on the road when I found out that they ended this thing. That thing early. But yeah, I will keep it up because I love doing these streams with you guys. Adam Smith, thank you for the Canadian 279. Red Bull Racing returned with SVG as the driver. I don't personally think so, just because of some of the manufacturer disputes that kind of caused their finish. And those things could, even with different manufacturers, could rear their ugly heads again. But I would love that. I would love Red Bull to come back because I love their cars and the schemes. I thought that if they had better drivers, they could have had a lot more success. I mean, look what, wasn't a great season, but what they did with Casey Kane, Brian Vickers, if you look, was probably the weakest chaser ever before 2014. I think if they had better drivers, I think they could have been a real threat more often. Milton, thank you for the 2. I've never been this happy after a NASCAR race. Well, good. And here's the thing. I'll say this too, for those of you who are still here. If you like this race and you disagree with some of the stuff I said, don't let me ruin it for you. If you like this race, even if I disagree, I still think you should be happy with this race. If you disagree with people that like this race, don't get too upset about it just because there's different opinions. That kid before the weekend, I thought was so cool to see because of how he talked about NASCAR coming to his city and how excited he was. And I love that there is that excitement for new fans and especially kids with NASCAR. And I don't want that to be extinguished because somebody who's been watching for a long time is upset with something that's different. So I want to put that there. So I'm happy you like this. I'm happy you're happy about it. And I think that more happy fans like that, that's good for NASCAR long term. Connor, thank you for the 199. No comment, but I appreciate again the donation. Irvin Alvarado, good to see you. 199 super chat says, next merch idea, a Flyberg plushie or artwork. That could be something. We got to get the fly around here more. I'm not going to like grow fruit flies by any means in my apartment, but if there's like a fly all the time, I can probably make a good meme out of that. Need for Speed 5353 for the 5. I think one street race a year at different cities would be cool. I would like to see one at Philadelphia or DC because I want to see it in person. I think that there's different cities that probably would be open to it. A Philadelphia one I'd be interested in just because I know how their sports culture is and it's very ruthless. I've been on the bad end of it and I've watched from afar on the neutral end of it. So that would be interesting personally. I'll probably stay home for that one because I'd be too tempted to wear like opposing team jerseys just to troll, and that's probably not good. TJ, thank you for the first super chat you've given to this channel for 5. Happy for SVG. Could Verstappen be the next Project 91 guy? I would love that. I don't know necessarily. I believe Kimi Räikkönen is coming back again, I want to say. I thought I heard that. I might be wrong. I haven't been able to keep track as well. But I think possibilities are endless. Allie Miller, thank you for the 5. Huge supercar fans here. I called Gizzy winning even back when him doing a NASCAR race was just a rumor late last year. He is a generational talent. I think he showed that today. I'd love to see him in the SRX. That should be what he, like, if he can do something next, that'd be really cool. See him go to some short track that not many people worldwide know and win there. That'd be really cool. Connor again with the 2. Would Penske let one of his Indy guys drive the 91? I think with the right deal, yes. I think it's just maybe after the season or a special event kind of thing. Austin Blanstead, thank you for the 5. Hey, man, hope you have a good day or had a good day. I did. Went to my cousin's graduation party, and it was really, really fun. Austin says, I was pleasantly surprised. No passing, but it was expected. I liked it. I think we need to try it in other towns. I like that too. I still don't think Chicago is the right fit for this kind of event, but there is potential even if there are a lot of problems too. Alex, thank you for the 5. My wife does not watch NASCAR, but both of us were on the edge of our seats listening to MRN. We both rooted for him and went crazy when he won. Yeah, me and my grandpa have not rooted for a driver. You know, like, yeah, I have the McDowell meme, and I'll root for like an underdog or somebody I know that's in the, you know, a driver in the garage and that series. But we have not really rooted for a driver like that since Junior was racing. Because it's I love that NASCAR fans appreciate how big of a deal this is. And that I think that's a good look for NASCAR fans too. Jonathan, thank you for the 2. So I was proven wrong. That was a really good race. Austin for another 5. I'm as traditional as it gets. I was skeptical. Full disclosure, this isn't my thing. But I think this was a net positive for the sport. Love you, man. Well, thank you. And I appreciate it. Love you too. Milton for the 5. Red Bull are producing their own F1 engines in 2026, so who knows if they return to NASCAR as an engine manufacturer. Pretty cool. Carl Singleton, thank you for the 2. This year is SVG's last year in Australian V8s. He did say that, and he did say he'd be open. Chuff Productions, thank you for the 5. Pittsburgh next. Fort Pitt Bridge as part of the course. I agree. That would be awesome. Half of the field misses the right exit and gets shot out into Monroeville. And Alex Johanning, thank you for the 2569. Being an Illinois native, I'm glad we have 2 NASCAR races. Yep, the Gateway race and Chicago. There was a lot to go over in this race. And, you know, I'll be honest, I thought the Xfinity race did not set a good tone going into the weekend. But NASCAR, I think, had a lot of good marketing, good push into this weekend. We'll talk about all that in the video tomorrow. be sure to subscribe, by the way, if you're new here. I'm assuming a lot of you are new here, and I appreciate all of your support. Got the NASCAR Weekly Podcast on Black Flags Matters channel this Wednesday. Going to be a ton of fun talking about it. I want you all to have a fun week. Looking at the poll here, how long does this race last? Right now, we're going to end it. 55% of you think it's going to last the full 3-year deal. 26% say it's going to be a one and done. 7% say it'll go all the way to 5 years. 11% of you say potato soup. Allie Miller, thank you for the 5. By the way, the crisscross move that he did on Haley on the restart, he is notorious for that down under. He faked out so many drivers with that. Yeah, Haley did not stand a chance. The fact that he held him off as long as he did, I thought was impressive, though. But that was a beautiful move. Beautiful move. And I'm probably going to go back and watch that like 10 times tonight. Hey, listen. I'm someone who came in cynical about this race. I still have my doubts. Like I said, I'm not 100% sold by any means. I wouldn't even say I'm sold by any means. But, man, there was some good stuff that came from this race, and I hope people enjoyed that. Napa Racing Fan 927, thank you for the 2. Canals, shout out the Rockford Speedway on Race Up. Awesome. Chad Canals, for people that have been around the Rockford Speedway, was a prodigy growing up. So, you know, and obviously we saw what he did, but I mean, he was known even from a young age at the Rockford Speedway for just how good he was when it came to tuning up cars and making cars go fast. So I love that he's shouting it out. You know, I wish that the Speedway had longer to live with it, but it's what it is. But hey, I wasn't sold on this. Still not personally. I won't say that, but I'm not going to say that everything was bad because things went wrong. There was a ton of good from this race, but there's also a ton of bad. It's going to be interesting. We're going to have a good conversation about that this week. We got a video coming out tomorrow, 4th of July on Tuesday. I want you all to be happy, have fun, be safe. And then NASCAR Weekly Podcast Wednesday. I got videos coming out all week. We're going to have a ton of stuff to talk about, so be sure to make that one on Black Flags Matters channel this Wednesday. And then Atlanta, hot Atlanta coming up, and I believe Mid-Ohio for the Truck Series, but the top 2 series, Xfinity and Cup, on the Super Speedway High Banks of Atlanta. Going to be interesting. But, y'all, I think we're almost an hour through this. We talked a ton about it. It's been a fun experience talking with you guys about it too. But I think that's going to be it for the night. So I apologize if any other super chats roll in the last second. I don't have the screen up as I'm going off here. A bit of a delay too. But I appreciate all of your support. And until next time, have a good one and stay safe this holiday season in the U.S. Can't wait to see you this week. Bye, guys.